Hello and welcome to the Fall Start Fantasy Podcast, episode 26, the podcast where we mix terrible microphones with even worse football takes. I'm Cameron Edgecombe, and I have the especially terrible microphone this week as my good one died, and I'm not sure what's up with that, so I had to go get my old one out of storage, and apparently I can only be heard if I'm yelling, so we're going to be adjusting to that, but I am joined by the greatest co-host in history, Josh Newshafer. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good today. Very excited for this episode.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to this one because we have a super special guest this week, as he's the only guest we've ever had on the show that is not in one of our various football leagues. Welcome to the show, Andrew Cooper. How are you doing?
Doing excellent, boys. Hey, you know what? I think the microphones are all right. I think you're underselling the mics, even the backup mic. You guys sound pretty good, man.
I appreciate
Thank you,
it.
thank you.
I'm pretty excited for this, so.
Yeah, I'm fired up, man. I mean, this is in my opinion, best time of the year for fantasy football shows. We just got the combine info. We've got all this news dropping in free agency, and most importantly, there's no football actually going on, so we can just wildly speculate to our heart's content. And there's no actual football to prove us wrong, right, boys? So we can kind of make as many takes as we want, and then come September, they'll all be wrong. But for the time being, we got license to roam here, boys.
Oh yeah.
I like that, and no one's going to look back to this episode and remember all the things we got wrong, so it'll be perfect.
Exactly. If we're wrong and they criticize us, we'll just tell them that it's all about the process.
It is all about the
Exactly.
process.
That's right. So let's get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go over a little bit of NFL news. So you just mentioned Combine was now a week and a half ago, and now the free agency, the legal tampering period, which sounds a little sus, started Monday, and then free agency itself began today. And there's been a ton of free agents moves. I even had to put a link in our show notes just because I was struggling to type out all the moves that were going on. Josh, I know you've been keeping up pretty good. What has surprised you the most so far?
Um, to me, not necessarily like free agency, but trades and everything was definitely the Darren Waller trade. That one really surprised me because I figured that guy would be a Raider for at least another few years. But if I had to pick one, that'd be the biggest surprise so far.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the combination of the Jacoby Myers signing and the Waller trade together was just a mind blower because they already have a Jacoby Myers in Hunter Renfro, right? So that when that signing came down, I was like, what is going on here? And then with the Waller trade, it made a little more sense, but wouldn't it have made more sense if they traded Hunter Renfro?
That's what I would have
Yeah,
thought. If they don't need to replace now they have to replace their tight end, and Moreau is a free agent. So
Right.
it's now let's just create this big hole for ourselves that we didn't have and fill a need we didn't have. So
Classic, yeah. It's like watching Kirk Cousins play football, right? Like you dig this big hole, and then now you have to get out of it. It would be better if you just like built the team without doing that. I don't know. And on the other side of this, you've got Jacoby Myers got 3 years, 33 million. The Patriots turn around and sign Juju to 3 years, 33 million. Why not just keep Jacoby Myers? This is classic NFL. What the heck is going on, right? Which is what we kind of can come to expect this time of year.
exactly, it's they gave the contract that Jacoby Myers got to Juju, and if you want to say there's a difference between the two really at this stage, I'm not sure I really see it, but you had a guy who knew your system was good with your quarterback and you let him walk so you can get a guy who's not good with the system and doesn't know your quarterback.
Right.
A little
Whopper, did you
questionable.
Whopper, did you see Juju's reaction on Twitter? Sorry, Jacoby's reaction.
I haven't seen it yet.
He tweeted "Cold World, LOL." So he's also wondering why they gave the same contract to Juju that they could have given to him. Yeah, tough situation.
That feeling though.
Yeah, Whopper, you did mention Darren Waller. Now he's on the Giants. Are you thinking that's bad for him or good for him because he doesn't have to compete with Devontae Adams anymore?
I mean, the biggest problem with Darren Waller at this point to me is can he stay healthy enough to even play? But outside of that, you're going from what would have been Jimmy Garoppolo to Daniel Jones. I don't see too much of an increase on that one, so I think it's going to be slightly better, but not by much.
Yeah, the health has been a factor for him. If he can't stay healthy, though, I will say at one point he was looking like he was going to be fighting to be the third or fourth target with Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, and Hunter Renfro. Now he's got a chance to lead that team in targets. We like Wandale, but we'll have to see what else they do. But right now he's in the mix to be first. I like the spot better for him just by the nature of opportunity.
Yeah, opportunity is everything to the tight end position. On the other side, the death of Daniel Bellinger, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty rest in peace there. And we'll see, though. He's 7 years younger than Waller, so he might rise again. We watched Dallas Goedert play inline tight end with Zach Ertz in the slot for a few years there. And once Ertz finally got traded, Goddard was able to spread his wings and at least on a per game basis give us some tight end one action. So maybe that's in the cards for Bellinger, but it's now at the very least down the road, right?
Yeah, so that's enough about Darren Waller. He's no longer a Raider, so we don't care about him, I guess. And,
that's right.
Pretty much.
I will throw it to you, Coop. What surprised you the most? You did mention the Jacoby Myers Juju, but was there a specific player that you did not expect at all to go to a certain team or anything like that?
Yeah. So, with the Jacoby, I look around the landing spots, and a part of it involves fantasy football wishing. It's hard not to do that, right? Where you're like, well, I hope he goes here. It's a great landing spot. And then I say to myself, I don't see a world where this guy goes here. And we watched, after the franchise tagging of Saquon Barkley and David Montgomery, we watched arguably the best free agent running back available land in the same backfield as DeAndre Swift. And he landed there with a pretty big contract, like 20, I think it's like 18 million that can go above 20 with incentives, 11 million guaranteed. Did not expect that at all. How are you boys feeling about that one? Because that surprised me.
Josh, I'll throw to you first on that question so I can look up David Montgomery's age.
I say David Montgomery, he'd probably be, 26, 25 at this point, but...
25, yep.
Yeah, so he's kind of prime time still.
Yeah. It surprised me. I thought the Bears were actually going to try to keep him because he worked well with their system that they had. It's definitely a run-heavy system that way anyways, but they're trailing too much in games. Lions... It doesn't surprise me too much at this point. I feel like they're trying to get away from DeAndre Swift towards the end of the season more and more. So on that end of things, it doesn't surprise me too much, and they'll probably just use him more of a scat back from now on.
Yeah, what do you think, Cameron?
Yeah, absolutely. I like the move. If it was a 1-year deal, I would be really excited about that. That would give them time to bring in a rookie who maybe takes over the backfield after they let Montgomery go. But 3 years at, what'd you say, 18, 20 million? That's a lot of money to give to a running back on a team with a lot of holes on the defense. There were a few players that I saw that we were talking about on the defense that I would have really liked to have seen on the Lions, especially with all the money that they had available. But
yeah.
It wasn't to be.
Plus, I mean, if you're going to have a split backfield, I felt that, Jamal Williams got the job done. He scored like 18 touchdowns, so you probably could have just kept their own guy for less. But maybe they have big long-term plans for Montgomery. So we'll have to see. But yeah, definitely a hit to DeAndre Swift's value, at least in the short term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the player I wanted to bring up, and I wanted to bring up because it doesn't really surprise me. It just kind of surprised me where he went. Samaje Perine signed with the Broncos, and this isn't like some big signing. I think it was a $7.5 million contract, something like that. Nothing really exciting, but I think fantasy football is going to see, hey, Sean Payton likes guys to throw to the running back. Samaje Perine's good at catching the ball. Let's go pay a first-round pick for him in Dynasty. And I just think there's a bit of an overreaction I'm already starting to see there in a few of our leagues. I've seen some offers going out. Josh, we're in 2 Dynasty leagues together. Are you considering an offer for Samaje Perine anywhere?
No, he's still attached to Russell Wilson, and I'm not sure if it was more Nathaniel Hackett, what the problem was, but Russell Wilson didn't look good last year, so At least for this year, I'm going to stay away. Yes, he might get a little bit more targets, but Javonte Williams is still there, and once he gets healthy again, going to be at the very least split backfield, and I just kind of want to stay away from that one on an offense that could be potentially just as bad and maybe a little bit better.
Yeah, for me, it seems like a really short term solution while they wait for Javonte Williams to get back. I think that if I was somebody that was going to go zero RB and just patch together a backfield, that would be a guy I would target to start my season. Because, I mean, it's not just Sean Payton, but Joe Lombardi is the offensive coordinator there now. He just came over from the Chargers, where Austin Eckler got a zillion targets. And also before that, the last time he was calling plays was he worked with the Saints with Alvin Kamara, and also he was with the Lions in 2014. They threw 156 passes to a combination of Reggie Bush, Joique Bell, and Theo Riddick. So I do think they're going to target whoever it is in the backfield, but it is kind of a short-term solution until Javonte Williams gets back, almost like a bit of a Band-Aid there. So I agree that I don't want to go out and overpay in Dynasty. I will say it is funny. There were a few startup drafts and rookie drafts back in like 2017 where Samaje Perine was going ahead of Alvin Kamara in those drafts. And now, if you held all this time and Kamara gets suspended, maybe the Samaje Perine owner gets a little bit of revenge, right? If you held this long,
Yeah,
which
that's
I mean,
a pretty long time to hold. He definitely had some
yeah,
value when he was filling in for Joe Mixon the last few years, so I do like the player. But um,
yeah,
Broncos
I'm not
also
overpaying.
they don't have a lot of picks towards the top, but they have 2/3, fourth, fifth, and sixth this year. That's running back area. You can
Mm-hmm.
start getting some good players there. Could be a decent committee there.
Yeah, and that's what happens with a situation like Javante, unfortunately, where it's not just an ACL; it's multiple. It, luckily, they say there's no nerve damage, which is the real killer. But it was, I think he had a PCL as well, LCL, and that's the same thing happened with J.K. Dobbins.
Mm-hmm.
And J.K. Dobbins' injury was at the very start of the season. Javante's was a few weeks in, so expect him to start off on the pup list, physically unable to perform list, which usually means you miss at least the first 4 games of the season.
Yeah, I think the last news I saw on that was back in January. So they're gonna be hopeful for him to be able to play at least half the season. Could be less, could be more. So we'll see.
Right.
As Chiefs fans, hope the worst for the Broncos, but as
Naturally.
fantasy football managers, hope the best because Javonte Williams is a really special talent and like to see him succeed.
Exactly. I always keep an eye out for the treadmill clips. Like Brees Hall, he just had the ACL tear. He's already posting treadmill clips, and he actually got hurt after Javonte Williams. So that's kind of the next step. Is they almost always do it. They say, here I am, I'm up and running, and J.K. Dobbins didn't do that until very late in the off season. So interesting to see when he's back up and running.
I like it. Well, any other news you guys wanted to touch on before we go into our fantasy free agency predictions?
Mm,
Uh, I'm ready to rock and roll, man. I mean, I guess we should hit on just real quick the movements for Rashad Penny and Miles Sanders. Right? They brought in Rashad Penny. Miles Sanders goes to the Panthers. Right now, if you were on the clock and you had to pick Penny or Sanders, who you guys like?
I like Penny a little bit better.
Yeah, Josh
Ooh.
is a big Penny fan. I traded him to him in Dynasty, even after the Kenneth Walker. I know Penny is just a really good talent when healthy. I think I'm gonna go the opposite. I'm gonna go with Miles Sanders. Um, I like the Colts system now moving to the Panthers system, and there's a lot of opportunity there. The Panthers, so I like Miles Sanders.
Yeah, for me, if it was a standard league, Penny I think is going to run for more yards. That line is great. Having the RPO with Jalen Hurts is great. The thing I worry about is that Jalen Hurts was second in the league in carries inside the 5 yard line behind only Jamal Williams, and we know that mobile quarterbacks don't throw to the back as much. I think in any sort of PPR, I'd probably go Miles Sanders. But if it was standard or best ball, I would go Rashad Penny because I think he's going to run all over the place. I just worry that he's not going to catch as many passes. He's never had double-digit receptions in a season, so it's kind of hard to project him to catch a ton, even on a different team. So that's where I'm at with those two. Format dependent, but in any sort of PPR, I think I like Miles Sanders.
Yeah, Penny's best ball ADP is going to be way above, I think, his
It's
redraft.
huge.
Yeah. He just has great potential, and you don't need him for 17 weeks in a best ball league.
He could score a 70-yard touchdown at any time, right? That's why we like him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, that concludes our NFL news, and we'll go ahead and move on to our fantasy free agency predictions. So I went ahead and put a whole bunch of players into a table, and I just went to the PFF's top-rated free agents, and I put them in this big table. And then over the last 3 days, all of them signed with different teams, and so I had to come up with some backup guys instead that we're going to be talking about because for some reason Dalton Schultz still hasn't signed anywhere. And we're going to throw to that first. We have a column here. All three of us have a different place for Dalton Schultz. I'm thinking the Texans. Whopper, what are you going with?
I'm going to the Raiders, especially with the absence of Darren Waller now. They kind of need a tight end, so they might spend up a little bit to get him, is what I'm thinking.
I like it. Coop, you have the Dolphins listed. Is that because you don't like Dalton Schultz, or you just think there's an opportunity there?
What I think it is Mike McDaniel clearly wants to use a two-way tight end. So he comes over from using George Kittle. When he got to the Dolphins, he took one look at Mike Gesicki and said, this guy can't really block at the level that I like to see. So he used Durham Smythe as the inline tight end. Mike Gesicki kind of only played out of the slot. And I think with moving on from Mike Gesicki, they want somebody that can play two-way, that can block really well and catch really well. I think of the available free agent guys, unless they're going to go in the draft, which draft is interesting too, Dalton Schultz is probably the best two-way guy available. He's a good blocker. He can catch the ball. He's not George Kittle, but of the free agent tight ends, I don't know if anybody, obviously no one's George Kittle, and he's probably the closest.
Yeah, I like this a lot. One of the oldest conversations I was looking up on our Discord, Coop, and I said the oldest conversations you and I had, I was like, hey, who are some rookie tight ends that actually have potential and that are going to be on nobody's team? And you said Hunter Long, who's a guy who just got traded to the Rams, and Kylan Granson. So I'm seeing news about both those two. I like that.
Yeah, Hunter Long, unfortunately, he went down the blocking path too early. We want to see these guys on the pass catching side, but who knows? Maybe he can be the heir apparent to Tyler Higbee over there in the Rams.
Big Higbee haters here, so that's not
Agreed.
The best news, but. Well, next one we have here, Adam Thielen was released by the Vikings. There's so many options that this guy can go to, but it's not going to be an every down player. He's not going to be your wide receiver one, so it's going to be interesting what happens. I have him going to the Ravens. They need a lot of wide receiver help, and I think that they'll be looking to sign a veteran player there.
Yeah, I'll go next. I think the Ravens are a great option because they're bringing in Todd Monken. He runs the air raid, and he even said his backgrounds with quarterbacks and wide receivers. He likes to throw, and the air raid, if anyone knows, like Cliff Kingsbury ran it. You need 3 to 4 wide receivers, so that's a good spot for him. I picked the Lions here, and my reasoning is they already have a flanker in Jamison Williams. They have a slot in Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they need a split end. If they bring in Thielen as a split end, they can have him as a part-time player where if they have 2 tight ends on the field, you go with Amon-Ra and Jamison Williams, and they don't have to tether their foot to the line because you have 2 tight ends out there. So they're off the line. They can go in motion, do their thing. And then when you go 3 wide receiver sets, you bring him on the field. Maybe that's only 70% of the plays, 70, even 80% of the plays, but he gets a breather on those 2 tight end plays. Then he comes on, tethers his foot to the line to be that big guy that can catch all the touchdowns that we've seen him catch over the years. So I think that'd be a good place where he could have some longevity and fill a role that they're losing with DJ Chark leaving.
I like it. Whopper, you had the Texans for Adam Thielen.
Yes, so I chose Texans. My reasoning on this one is obviously going to have a quarterback early in the draft, whether it be C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young. Those are probably the two favorites for whoever Houston picks up. And I'm just thinking you get a older receiver, Brandon Cooks. At least if you want to believe rumors, he might be traded. So get another veteran presence in there that could actually really help out the quarterback, help him go through progressions and all that. Someone who's been in the system for at least NFL system for a very long time.
I think it's
Gosh, you put
interesting.
you
Yeah. Go
it's
ahead,
a
Coop.
it's a it's it's a well reasoned take, but you'd be putting my Nico Collins shares in the ground with that move. I'm not sure I love that. I'm not sure I love you burying my boy like that. But again, Collins has been hurt. He hasn't really flashed, so I absolutely see them doing it. Especially they just brought in Robert Woods, so they're definitely not afraid to bring in veterans.
Exactly.
Yeah, they'll want a number of different weapons there to make their rookie QB as good as possible. But um, I did say he's on the Ravens. I think the biggest reason for that is that the Ravens wide receivers last year couldn't catch the ball. Demarcus Robinson was like their best wide receiver when Bateman was injured, and it was just a miserable watching that guy drop touchdown after touchdown. He was consistently my waiver weapon that I had selected every single week, and then I'd watch him drop 2 touchdowns, and I'd be like, I'm never doing that again. And then the next
Hmm.
week, hey, Demarcus Robinson looks kind of interesting, and Adam Thielen can still catch the ball, whereas I don't think he'll be running sprints every single time. So be interesting there. Next wide receiver, and I think if you asked me, this guy is the top wide receiver of the free agency market, is DJ Chark. I loved what he was able to do on the Jaguars way back when, and I thought he had an interesting role when he was on the Lions, gave a few people waiver weapon of the week, and I might need to change this now as they sign Juju, but I do have him going to the Patriots because that wide receiver core is Tyquan Thornton, and that's it. I'm trying to think
Yeah,
if
I
Kendrick
mean,
Bourne is still contracted there. Coop, do you know?
so they have Devontae Parker, but the thing with Parker is that because they traded for him, they carry none of his dead cap. So if they like anyone better, like say they like DJ Chark better, they could cut Devontae Parker for 6 million in savings, zero dead cap. So he's technically he's on the team, but he's not a threat in terms of they could bring anyone they want in and cut him with no cap it. So you don't really even have to count him against a move like DJ Chark. If you want to project Chark to go there, they just cut Parker and it would be his job.
Yeah, hard to say Parker really fought for his job too, since he's joined the
I mean, he's been fighting for it on Instagram. I've seen that.
team.
So
Josh,
yeah.
where are you thinking DJ Chark ends up?
So I'm thinking, might as well go to a team that has a little bit too much money to spend right now. The Bears. Yes, they got DJ Moore. They have Darnell Mooney. They have Jason Claypool. Might as well get the fourth head of the dragon there, or get DJ Chark. That'd be a pretty good target downfield. Yes, you have DJ Moore and Jason Claypool, but I think DJ Chark would also be a pretty good addition as well. And he's a little bit bigger, so that could also help Justin Fields, who's not the best passer, so giving him a bigger body should help.
Yeah, they've been making splashes, and that's he's the fourth piece of the puzzle, just something different than everybody else. For me, I have a prediction here that fans of this team would definitely groan a bit at this one and say, "Here we go again." I imagine, but I have him going to the New York Giants, and the reason they would groan is that they would be sitting there and saying, "Oh, we're gonna sign an injury-prone Lions split end again after Kenny Galladay." But because the Kenny Galladay situation happened, they have an open spot on the outside, and this is a guy who I agree with you, Cameron. People don't agree with us that he's the best free agent wide receiver out there, but I truly believe he is. He's 6'3", runs like a crazy. He's got like 95th percentile speed or higher, maybe even 98th. He runs like a 4.34, something like that. So he's got the size, got the speed. He can play on the outside. I think the Giants need that. They have interior guys. They have Wan'Dale Robinson. They brought back Sterling Shepard, but they don't have that big guy on the outside. I think it would be a good fit for him there, especially if they're moving forward with Daniel Jones. They got to get him better weapons. Apologies to Isaiah Hodgins with that pick, but that's
I
where
don't know
that's
if
where I
there's
got
a
him.
lot of Isaiah Hodgins truthers out there, but maybe after this year.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, I had 100 yards in the playoffs. That goes a long way with fans, I will say.
You have a good point there.
Mm-hmm.
Gabe Davis fans are probably
It's
Isaiah Hodgins fans. That
the
Venn
Gabe Davis
diagram is a
special.
circle. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, they're the same people that were Preston Williams fans.
All right. Well, the next player we have on here is we're back to tight ends. Mike Gesicki. Josh and I both have him going to the Jets, but Coop, you have him going to the Packers. They definitely have an opening there. I'm gonna throw to you first.
So I like your Jets pick there because they kind of have inline tight ends already. CJ Uzoma, hasn't really done a whole lot. Tyler Conklin's an inline guy, so he would be a nice big body there, kind of a Robert Tonyan type. But when I look at Robert Tonyan types, the Packers, they lost Robert Tonyan, they lost Mercedes Lewis. Their entire tight end group needs an overhaul. So they need a blocking tight end and they need a pass catching tight end. I think it would be interesting for him to go there and he could just play out of the slot, right? So you take Christian Watson, put him on the outside on one side, Romeo Doubs on the outside on the other side, throw Gesicki in there where he played 90% of his snaps at the slot with Chan Gailey as the offensive coordinator, with Adam Gase before that. He had him block a ton, 17% of his snaps. And then after that, I just talked about what Mike McDaniel did. But in the right landing spot where he can play slot and be that guy, I see a lot of upside for him. So I'm picking the Packers, not only because I think it would be a good spot, but because I want him to go there and catch a lot of passes.
I like it, Josh. We both have the Jets. I'll give my reasoning, and that's that they want to throw to the tight ends, but the tight ends they have just aren't that good after the catch. And with them bringing in Aaron Rodgers, I think they'll want as many weapons as they can to give them an offensive ceiling that could rival some of the best in the league. And so I like Gesicki going to the Jets. But what was your reasoning?
I say it's kind of that last point you added there was just added more offensive firepower for Rodgers when he eventually gets there. Definitely would need to score a lot more points competing with the Bills in that division, the Dolphins, and on this one, Cooper, we'll see what the Patriots offense can do now that they actually have an offensive coordinator for once.
Yeah, I think you undersold the lack of yards after the catch for a guy like Tyler Conklin. I mean, this guy has been in the league 5 years and he only has 6 missed tackles. He only has 6 broken tackles the entire time he's been in the league. So he is not creating a whole lot with the ball in his hands. So not generating a lot of yak is probably the nicest way you could put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like that spot. That'd be dangerous.
All right. Well, next player we have on the list is we're back to being controversial here. Paris Campbell, player that was on way too many of my best ball teams this year, but leaving the Colts doesn't look like they're going to re-sign him. They did choose to re-sign Ashton Doolin, so I kind of went with where you were thinking, Coop, with same reasoning for DJ Chark. I wanted Paris Campbell on the Giants. But I noticed you have him on the Browns. Why is that?
So for me, a couple of reasons. One, the Browns, they have an outside guy, Amari Cooper. They have the split end Amari Cooper. They have the tight end David Njoku, and then they have Donovan Peoples-Jones as a guy that can play on the outside. David Bell really didn't pop out of the slot there. So I think Paris Campbell is a guy who played 700 plus snaps at the slot last year, and not only that, but he went to Ohio State. So you immediately have, I know they don't always weigh that kind of stuff in, but he'll immediately be a fan favorite with the overlap of Ohio State fans and Browns fans. And I mean, this guy, he was finally healthy and he looked good last year. He played both out of the slot and out wide. So I think it's a pretty natural fit for a guy like that. And they wouldn't have to pay crazy amounts to get him there. Like, you don't have to give him the $11 million that Juju or Jacoby Myers got, and you might honestly get similar production.
Money is a big part of it. Josh, you have him on the Dolphins.
So, fun fact on this one, initially when I read the name, I put down the Dolphins. For some reason, I was thinking Calais Campbell. I forgot Paris example existed. But I'm going to keep it the Dolphins, and I'm going to try to come up with a reason here. You got Jalen Waddle, you got Tyreek Hill, you lose Gesicki now, so you need a third option to throw to. Granted, they didn't throw to Gesicki a whole lot, but like you guys were just saying, he played a lot of slot receiver when he was with the Colts. So putting him on the inside on the slot, and then you have Watto, Tyreek on the outside. I think that could actually be a pretty dangerous three-way headed monster there for the Dolphins, and then whoever they pick up for tight end as the fourth piece.
Honestly, for a completely accidental pick by you, it's not a bad landing spot at all. Honestly, I think I might like it better than Cam's.
That's totally fair. I once you started going, I was thinking about it more, and I was like, you know what? That's not a bad idea. We need more options for Skylar Thompson to throw to. So
yeah,
Exactly.
Tyler Thompson. There you go, dude. Yeah, but I look at it. It's like because the Giants, they have Wandale and Sterling Shepard. I'm hearing rumors that the Dolphins might cut Cedric Wilson too. So if they lose Cedric Wilson and Mike Gesicki, those are the two guys that played all the slot snaps for him. So I mean, Josh accidentally kind of nailed that one. It'd be funny if he does go there now, right?
Oh yeah,
could look like
That's how it works.
Like
about that one.
I mean, if you like, the thing is, when you look at like the Jacoby landing spot, like maybe the trick to this game is just to think of the worst possible landing spot for him and then pick that team. Like, right? Like,
you might be on to something.
What's a team that has a slot wide receiver that was a top 10 receiver in all of fantasy football just a year ago? Okay, yeah, let's send Jacoby Myers to that team. That's how this works, I guess.
Yeah, and we know Jimmy Garoppolo can sustain 5 great receivers on the same offense, right?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, next two players we have here are Mecole Hardman, Darius Slayton. I don't think they're the most exciting players, so we can kind of blitz through them. I'm thinking Packers for Hardman because I'd like to see some more speed alongside Christian Watson. That way he doesn't just run verticals. And Darius Slayton, I think he stays with the Giants because that's a team he knows. Throw it to you guys, unless you're super passionate about these two players.
Yeah, we all put the Giants for this for Darius Slayton, but you could probably swap any of the landing spots because these guys at this point are probably both field stretchers at this stage of their career. I threw the Falcons in the mix too because they have the big Kyle Pitts at wide receiver / tight end. They have the big Drake London. They have a big Jonnu Smith. They don't really have the speedy field stretcher. So I think that team's a good candidate to add any one of these like part-time field stretcher type guys,
And I'll add in for Mecole Hardman. I put him for the Patriots. I'm just like, they don't really have a huge deep threat anymore. At least not that I can think of top of my head. So it's someone who's pretty fast, can get that field quickly enough, and he has had some good games with the Chiefs. So maybe he can do a little bit better when he's with the Patriots if he's there.
Can Mac Jones throw as far as Mecole Hardman needs to get to be open? Is that?
Probably not, but that doesn't stop teams from putting those guys out there.
Tyquan Thornton did just get drafted to that team, so maybe you're onto something.
Yeah, but Nelson Aguilar is gone too, so he could be a replacement for that. But yeah, he wouldn't be particularly fantasy relevant. But teams do like having that guy. KJ Hamler is that guy. He's not relevant, but he goes out there and takes the top off defenses.
That's perfect. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the running backs. And the first running back I wanted to talk about was Devin Singletary, because it felt like every year that he has been on the Bills, everyone's saying, does he have any fantasy value? And then we never really got an answer for that. I put him on the Steelers, as I think they're going to want more people because I don't think Jalen Warren or Najee Harris was enough. And I don't think Devin Singletary will be taking a lot of money, which is kind of the Steelers' way. So... Josh, you have the Rams. I'll throw to you first.
So I put the Rams. This is one of those. I had a hard time trying to think where he would be like a decent fit. And I was like, screw it. I don't think the Rams have much depth outside of Cam Akers, and they had someone else, but I can't even think it was. So I'm just thinking, at the very least, he can be a very good depth piece. Get a 1-2 punch with Cam Akers, Singletary, go kind of that style of offense.
Yeah, I think at this point of his career, he might end up just being a depth guy. One spot that I picked the Chargers because I think that not even just because Austin Eckler had mentioned like he wants an extension or he wants to be traded, but Austin Eckler's never had a 1,000-yard rushing season. And last year versus the Jaguars in the playoffs, they couldn't really move the ball when they just needed to run the clock out. And I think Devin Singletary is the kind of guy that can be that early down back for this team and serve that purpose while Austin Eckler handles the pass work. So it feels like an okay fit for me.
Yeah, you both have him going from the cold, awful Buffalo to L.A. So I think you might be onto something there. Maybe Singletary's not a fan of the cold, and he ends up
Yeah,
there. But
he's a
next
Florida guy,
next
born in
player we
Florida,
have here
born and raised Florida.
is that's a good point. Yeah. Next player we have here is Kareem Hunt, who spent a few years with the Browns, being okay, I guess, after being amazing with the Chiefs. Now he's a free agent after team refused to trade him. Could have gotten some value, perhaps. Um, I think he goes to the Broncos because I think he's still mad at the Chiefs for getting rid of him.
Yeah, I can see that being the case.
You
Yeah.
two you both have him on pretty run heavy teams. Coop, you have him on the Seahawks. What makes you think they want a guy to take away Kenneth Walker's value?
Yeah, I don't want it for fantasy football. This is me picking this because I think it's rational for a team to do, but I would rather just have Walker get everything. I hope they just find a backup to Walker that does the same things as him, like an Alexander Mattison, just to go
Mm-hmm.
do the same thing he did behind Dalvin Cook. But I think it makes a lot of sense. They lost Rashad Penny, they lost Travis Homer. You have Kenneth Walker, who is obviously going to be the guy on first down, obviously going to be the guy in goal line situations. Why not supplement him with somebody who does things a little differently? And Kenneth Walker was outside of the top 70 or so backs in pass blocking grade with according to Pro Football Focus. So
Mm.
why not bring in a guy that can block on pass plays and catch the ball in the backfield? This is a spot where I actually had some in my original offseason before the deals got announced. I had Samaje Perine going to do that role for the Seahawks since he's already locked up somewhere. Kareem Hunt, very similar type guy.
Yeah, I like that. Whopper, you have him on the Falcons.
Yeah, so I'm thinking the Falcons just because again they are a very run-heavy team. They're going to go through running backs like crazy. Running back is arguably one of the most injury-prone positions in the NFL, so you want a lot of depth. And if you can get someone pretty good back there, Kareem Hunt, yes, he's a little bit older. He's 28, 29, somewhere like that now, I think, but still pretty good. So in that offense, also he is known to catch the football quite a bit. Cordell Patterson gets hurt too often, so they can actually have a pass catching back that way as well.
And me and Josh went the same direction in terms of like hurting Dynasty gamers' feelings. Right? We should have we should have picked Seahawks, Falcons, and Texans, and
Yes.
just gone after all the rookie running backs from last year.
That
Yep.
would be fantastic. I mean, Broncos would hurt Javonte Williams first,
Yes.
second, and third down work too. So maybe there's something there. I think something really interesting though about Kareem Hunt is that this guy hasn't played over 50% of the snaps since week 1 of last year, and it's just like I know that there's gonna be some fantasy players who are gonna see Kareem Hunt's name and be like, "Remember that guy was on the Chiefs and he was super awesome." Maybe he still has a little juice in him. So wherever he goes, I think that he'll be a sell candidate. Um, but it'll always also depend on what's his
Yeah. Well,
value.
let me ask you real quick. Do you think there's any possibility of a reunion with him and the Chiefs? That's where he had his best season. He led the league in rushing yards his rookie year. Do you think that's possible at all?
Absolutely. Um, the
Mhm.
Chiefs' whole identity recently seems to be let's get cheap veterans who might still have a little bit left in them, and let's see what they do. And sometimes it works. Jarek McKinnon, Carlos Dunlap, Melvin Ingram when he was here. They like to get these cheap older veterans, and then sometimes it doesn't. If Marquez Valdez Scantling didn't have that AFC Championship game, I don't think anyone would be talking about him on the team for this year. But I'd say there's a chance. I wouldn't like it though. Don't think he'd have much value.
Yeah, fair.
I don't see it happening, but I'm not going to say it's not impossible. I just don't think it's as likely considering the way he did leave the team.
Yeah, that's the big wrench, right? Like that
Mhm.
the fans you asking the fan, they've already asked their fans there to deal with a lot with the the Tyreek Hill and the Frank Clarks and all that. Maybe you give the fans a break, right?
Mhm. At least a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the next player we have here is kind of the I don't want to say the opposite of Kareem Hunt, but it's Damian Harris, this guy who scores a lot of touchdowns and got way more work than was ever expected, whereas Kareem Hunt was getting less work than was expected. And for all the same reasons that Josh said the Falcons, I was thinking that he would end up there. But Josh, you have him staying with the Patriots.
Yeah, I really liked him with Patriots. He knows the system pretty well, and he's a good goal line back for them. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Ramondre Stevenson's already proven himself to be the one combo between the two. But just using him more or less as a goal line back, short yard situations, I can see them doing that. Because he's not going to cost as much anymore, so cheap, and you have a goal line back.
Yeah,
Coop.
I mean, we've already seen him successful there. I mean, the yards per carry, and we know that they're bringing back Bill O'Brien. Maybe he wants to run that split backfield that they used to run with, Sony Michel and Kevin Falk, or sorry, like Corey Dillon and Kevin Falk, and then it was like Stephen Ridley and Danny Woodhead. Like they've always split the backfield, James White and Sony Michel. So maybe they go back to that. It wouldn't be good for fantasy football, but Josh kind of laid that out there with Damian Harris on the rundowns, and then Ramondre Stevenson looked great. He caught like 70 passes. For me, I picked the Bills just because they have. If you look at like what the Eagles just did, they said we have Jalen Hurts to score in the goal line. We have Kenneth Gainwell to catch passes. Let's just go out and get the best pure runner. We don't care if he catches passes. The Bills have James Cook. They have Josh Allen to punch it in. Why not go out and just get a pure runner that you can get at a discount? So I think it's a good landing spot there with the Bills, just to basically just replace Devin Singletary with somebody that I think is a little bit better runner than Devin Singletary.
Yeah, I like it. Next player we have on here, every Chiefs fan wants Jerick McKinnon to come back, but not a single one of us thinks he will be. I have him on the Colts. They traded away their third down back because he cost too much money, and now they're really wishing they had a third down back, and Jerick McKinnon can do that.
Yeah, I feel that. I have him going to be a third down back as well with the Cardinals, the team I picked. I think they're doing a bit of a bridge year over there, and they have James Conner, and I don't think they want to go and spend up in the draft or spend out when a year that they're probably not winning anything. I mean, they're bottom 3 team in Vegas odds, new coach, new GM. They're turning things over. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were just like, hey, you know what? Bring in the vet to bridge the gap to the next steps, and then you go out and draft your running back of the future. So I could see them pairing James Conner and Jerick McKinnon and just saying, hey, get us through the year. We need to survive this year, and then we'll figure it out later.
That would be an old running back room.
The oldest.
Well, yeah, that's pretty old, but they have later round picks they can of course try to get a Pacheco with. Josh, you have him on the Bills.
Yeah, I do like the Cardinals. I have that one with the Cardinals on that one. However, I'm going to say the Bills. I think James Cook is a pretty good runner, or at least he's not bad, so use him as your primary running back. And bring in Jerick McKinnon. You can kind of do what he did with the Chiefs, where he's your primary third down running back. Use him that way. And he's pretty good in the red zone, as we saw this last year, so give Josh Allen just another weapon in the red zone.
I like it. Well, that's a few of the running backs. I wanted to throw back to tight ends as we have the tight end genius here on the show this week. Austin Hooper is a guy that's kind of disappointed, well, every year since he was on the Falcons. I don't think he had much value when he was on the Browns, and I know he had no value when he was on the Titans. Is there really a market out there for Austin Hooper? I put him on the Bengals because I think they're needing to replace their tight end, but I don't think you just let Hayden Hurst walk and then go get a guy who's probably just as bad as Hayden Hurst, but they're a team that I know that needs a tight end.
Yeah, that's absolutely a good spot for him to go. And I see that that Josh in here put the Bengals. Josh put the Dolphins, and I think that's another great spot. Good pick by Whopper there. I already talked earlier about why I think the Dolphins need a two-way tight end, which is what he is. For me, I think he's at the point in his career where he's probably going to end up more of a blocking tight end. I thought he could go back to the Falcons to be their inline tight end. They traded for Jonnu Smith to do that, which thank God they did, because I was scared. Yeah, Pitts is freed, and I was scared that they were going to draft one of these rookies and just like throw Darnell Washington in that spot. A guy, Chris, would have been so bad.
Twitter would just lose it. They would lose it.
I know, dude. We would have lost. Someone's going to go somewhere that's going to annoy us, but that would have been bad. And a guy from CBS, Chris, I believe his name's Chris Trapasso, had them drafting Dalton Kincaid, which, that would have been just brutal. So I picked a spot where I think he could go and be an inline tight end and potentially start. And then they could take their aging veteran, either cut him or keep him and play him out of the slot where he does best anyway. And that's the Commanders. I think Washington could use a guy like Austin Hooper to play inline, and then you just take Logan Thomas, if he's still going to be there, and just use him out of the slot. I think that's just a good career trajectory for Austin Hooper, is to be, if he wants to play for a long time, he could be the next Mercedes Lewis, which we remember might be a little bit before your time, boys, but Mercedes Lewis, once upon a time, was a fantasy relevant tight end on the Jaguars. Were you guys playing back when Mercedes Lewis was dropping 700-yard seasons, or was that before you guys?
I was not. Walker, I don't know if you played fantasy.
Got the tail end of it.
A lot more then.
Yeah, my first season playing fantasy was the tail end of his good stretch of years.
Yes, 2010. Mercedes Lewis, it blew up people's minds if you see the seasons he has now, where last year he had 66 yards, 6 catches for 66 yards, or the couple of years there with the Packers, we had 3, 15, and 10 catches. Once upon a time in 2010, he had 58 catches for 700 yards and 10 touchdowns. Was a top 5 or 6 tight end in fantasy football. Then he just really developed into one of the best blocking tight ends in the league. If Austin Hooper wants to play for a long time, that's probably going to be the direction that he goes in. So that's why I picked this spot for him as the beginning of his journey as a inline blocking tight end.
So pretty much sealing the nail on the coffin in his fantasy relevance is what you're saying.
Yes, that would be the end of it. But we had a scout, Brandon Huffman, on our morning show, on Better Sports, the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show, 7 to 10 a.m. And I asked him about Darnell Washington, and they said that when he was 16, 17 years old, because this guy is like a high school to college scout, they actually talked to Darnell Washington, and a lot of the scouts were going to him and saying, hey, you have 2 options. You want to play tight end, but if you try to be tight end, you could end up working at a car wash. And then they said, you're 6'7", 260 pounds. If you were to bulk up to 300 pounds, you could be an offensive tackle, and that would be your meal ticket. And there's, they were like, there's a 90% chance you make it in the NFL. And he said, nope, I want to play tight end. He took the risk. He's going to get drafted as a tight end. But, sometimes you got to do what you got to do to make the money. And Austin Hooper, I think, is at that point where if he wants to play for a long time, that's the way to do it.
I like it. Whopper, does that story hit a little home for you? Tight end has to go to tackle, but you're not Darnell Washington.
No, my playing days are long gone on that one.
Hey, but you got to do what you got to do, right?
Exactly. Just a little bit of knee pain to show for it.
Yeah, I feel that, dude. I feel that. And it's, for me, the knee pain, it's not from football. It's all the years of playing catcher. I feel like that's caught up to me with the knees, man. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of kneeling,
Mm-hmm.
Too many double headers.
Well,
in my case, our offense took too many shots in the knees.
Yeah. We have a few more players here listed for agency, but Coop, I believe you got to get out of here. Is that correct?
I can, I can hang for just a little longer if you want to rapid fire some, and we'll hit on these, man. I like hanging out with you, man, and you guys have been great supporters of the things that I do. That's why I'm impressed with you guys putting together a show. Happy to come on, and I'm hopefully happy to be back. So I'm down if you guys want to just rattle off the next few. I'm here to hang.
Yeah, let's go for it. Foster Moreau. I said the Bengals, the exact same reason. I think Josh is with me there. You got him on the Raiders, though, Coop. Well, why do you want us to hate Moreau even longer?
The thing with Moreau is he's never had a single game with more than 70 yards receiving. And we, Josh touched on the injury concerns for Darren Waller earlier. It's not for lack of opportunities. This guy has gotten a ton of chances to start. He'll catch a touchdown every now and again, but never really had a big game where he popped. I think that the Raiders, with the card set, I think the Raiders just look at it and say, with what we're doing, Adams, Renfro, Jacoby Myers, we don't need a big pass catching tight end. He just goes back there. But again, the Bengals don't really need one either. So I think your landing spot is just as reasonable.
Yeah, next player, Jarvis Landry, veteran who's really at the tail end of his career, not going to provide consistent value, but we all have teams that think they're contending. Will they be contending? I'm not sure, but I'm on the Packers because that wide receiver core could use a little veteran help since Lazard and MVS and Cobb have all been leaving over the last few years, and it's up to the young guys. I think Jarvis Landry provide a veteran force there. But, Josh, you have him on the Chiefs, which I think is the first time I've seen the Chiefs listed on our free agency sheet. So, what's up with that?
I like what you said for the Packers, just bring a veteran presence to the receiving room, because I can't remember who's all the receivers right now, but the only two I can think of are Tony and Moore. So, two people in their first 3 years of playing football in the NFL. So, some veteran presence there that way.
Yeah. And I picked the Cowboys because they have CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup on the outside. Don't really have a slot guy, and now they don't have Dalton Schultz. I think they need a little extra help over the middle for those intermediate to short routes. I think Landry is the kind of guy that could play a part-time snap share there, and he seems like a Jerry Jones guy to me. Very loud.
He does seem like a Jerry Jones kind of guy, and I think he's pretty entertaining. I'll never forget the season they re-signed Dez Bryant for just like 2 games out of nowhere, because that team is looking for a wide receiver too. They had it for a year and then traded away Amari Cooper.
I know. Way she goes to keep Zeke, who they also are potentially releasing. So maybe they should have just kept Amari in the first place.
Yeah.
They actually just released Zeke not too long ago.
Right. Yeah, I saw the news. It's official. He's officially released.
Official.
Yep.
There it is. Breaking news from Whopper.
Got a career
Attaboy.
in sports media, clearly.
Yeah. There you go, dude. Hey, that's how it starts. You told me something, dude. There you go, Whopper. Attaboy.
All right, next player we have here, D'Onta Foreman. This guy went from the Titans to the Panthers and is now a free agent again after being a fantastic fill-in 2 years in a row. PFF actually has him expected to make $5.3 million on his contract, which is more than they have for Hunt, Harris, McKinnon, any of the other running backs we talked about. I think it's a bit much. I like him, but that's a lot of money. But I have him going to the Vikings because they'll be wanting somebody to take the place of Alexander Mattison. I don't think he'll get $5.3 million, even though the Vikings recently have really loved overpaying the free agents that they've been getting. But Whopper, you have him going to the Cardinals.
Yeah, I have him go to Cardinals more or less just as a depth piece that can be a suitable fill-in. So should something happen with James Conner, because he usually gets hurt for a game or two at least per year, if not longer. So pretty solid stand-in.
Yeah, I mean, Josh, when you say he usually gets hurt for a game or two, I think what you mean is he has always missed at least 2 games in every single season. Yep. In every single season he's been in the league, he's missed at least 2. So you're right nail on the head with that. I just had Kareem Hunt going. I had McKinnon going there, but again, you could just swap the Cardinals in that same spot. For this one, I had the Bucs. I think that they are going to move forward with Rashad White. I don't think this guy gets $5.3 million, especially after we watched Rashad Penny get $1.3 million.
Yeah.
So I think he maybe goes for $1 or $2 million to a team where he's just going to rotate in, and I think he would be a good pairing with Rashad White. Rashad White's good on pass downs. Foreman can help out in the close range, and I'm hoping that they do sign someone like this and just realize that Rashad White is much better, and Rashad White becomes the next like Alvin Kamara type player. That's what I'm hoping. I think he's a really fun player to watch and a good player. So I don't want them to sign a really good back. I don't want them to sign Alexander Mattison or anything like that.
Yeah, I like it. I think D'Onta Foreman provides value to whatever team he gets to. And we were about to go to Alexander Mattison, but breaking news, he just signed a 2-year contract with the Vikings. So,
ooh, Josh with the points on that.
getting
Did
some
you,
credit
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Josh? Did you switch? Did you know that news when you put the Vikings in there, or was that a call?
Oh, I got that put that in there about 3 hours ago. So it was just one of those gut feelings like they're going to keep him.
Josh on fire out here, baby. Let's go, dude. You break the Zeke news, hit on the Alexander Mattison news. Now all we need is you to get that backdoor accidental Paris Campbell pick, right? And I mean you're basically Adam Schefter. Is that not right?
That's exactly
We'll
what
go
it
with that.
is.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Whopper Schefter, dude.
Well, the next player we have on here that we are big fans of Gardner Minshew. Ever
Oh,
since he
love
had
him.
the game where he was playing on the Jaguars, stepped in for was it Nick Foles?
Foles.
Yeah,
It was Nick
Foles.
Foles.
And we watched the Jaguars play the Chiefs, and you remember the Applebee's we were in watching that
Oh
game,
yeah.
and it was like, hey, this guy can sling it. He's got an arm. Big fans of Gardner Minshew. I think everybody is, though. We have them both going to the Giants, and that's so he can replace Daniel Jones, right, Josh?
I mean, if Danny Dimes doesn't live up to the hype and becomes Danny Penny's, might as well put in Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
Picturing you boys at a Applebee's watching Gardner Minshew sling the football with his mullet and his mustache, and then you guys go over to the jukebox, put on something like "Proud to Be an American." I can. That's about as bro out as you can get, dude. Down at the old Applebee's watching Minshew sling the pigskin.
Yeah, I mean the 99-cent drinks seem like his calling, so it's
That's right, dude. That's right. For me, I have him going the Cardinals. I think I had two quarterbacks as potentially going to the Cardinals. I had Jacoby Brissett because he was drafted by the Patriots when Monty Austinfort was part of that scouting staff. Now Monty is the GM for the Cardinals. And then the other guy I had with connections to these guys is Gardner Minshew was Jonathan Gannon's the coach now. He was coaching the Eagles defense at the time when Minshew was there. Makes sense for them to bring someone in that can play because I think the word is Kyler Murray's not going to be ready to play. So whoever the backup quarterback there is going to start games. So I think Minshew gets an opportunity, which is all he needs in this world right now is as many opportunities to go out and play on Sunday as possible. I think it would be a good spot for him to say, hey, I'm still here and I can start. And then when Kyler comes back, other teams look around and say, hey, you know what? You guys not using Gardner? We watched him the first 4 games and we could use that guy. So I think that's a good, if he can't find a starting spot, I think that's the next best thing.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Great, great job with the connections of the GM when the was a scout for the Patriots. I did not know that connection. That's pretty interesting.
That was Monty. Yeah, that's Monty. And once Jimmy G and Jacoby came off the table and Stidham's off the table too, which he had connections to all three. I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, who's left that they have connections to? And there's old Gardner, ready to rock and roll.
I like it. I like it. I also like we said when we were doing the rebuilding for the Cardinals, we were saying that their new head coach was going to bring in some guys from the Eagles because they had a lot of free agents, and Gardner Minshew definitely fits that bill. The last free agent we have on here though is Odell Beckham Jr. and
Oof.
I have him on no team because I don't think anyone will be that interested because I think he's asking for way too much money, and I'm just going to stick with that.
I think that's fair. I mean, reports are he's asking for 20 million, and the top guys are getting what 11 this year.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, man. I don't know, Josh. What do you think? Who do you think there's a spot that would make sense for him?
If anything, I'm going to say the Jets, and this is partially due to Aaron Rodgers, his list, so-called list. If that's even true or not, I'm not 100% sure at this point, but I also think he would be a good piece for that Jets offense. Again, just add even more firepower. You have Aaron Rodgers going there, so make it as dangerous as possible while you got a young defensive core.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a team I've seen, and I've seen him sitting courtside with Von Miller. I saw reports that they sent people to he held like a workout with his scout, like a little one of those private workouts you do when you're in a situation like his, and that's the Bills. The Bills apparently they have been linked a little bit to him. He would be a guy that could play opposite of Stephon Diggs in that offense in like the John Brown or Emmanuel Sanders role. I think it makes a lot of sense, but he'd have to work with them on the money because they don't have 20 million. They might not have 11 million. So if he wants to play football again and wear his $1 million watches when he's warming up for games, he's going to have to probably take a little bit less.
Yeah, I just got a notification on my phone that the Chiefs restructured Patrick Mahomes' deal, and it, I know we're throwing to the Chiefs here when we were supposed to be talking about free agents, but they didn't choose to franchise tag Orlando Brown. They let a number of players walk, and now they're making money in Mahomes. There's a trade that's going to happen, right? Chiefs are going to bring in somebody that isn't on the team, and it's going to be a big, expensive player.
Yeah, they'll do something here. And I knew when he signed that contract, that 10-year deal, that they were going to use it like the piggy bank, which they, like Tom Brady. I think they're going to look at the Tom Brady way of playing where if they need money, they take it from them. And then the years when they're not, I think that's the part of that people forget is that a few of those years he was set to not make a lot of money. And then they just like restructured his contract last minute and just paid him like $20 million a couple of those years and just said, whatever's left in the piggy bank, you can just have it. So it's not like he played for pennies the whole time. I think that's what they're going to do with Mahomes. They want to go back to back. He's going to help them out, and then later on, they'll sneak him some money somehow. So I think you're right. There's something coming down the pipe.
I had to guess, I'd say Laramie Tunsil because I know there's been a lot of rumors about that one lately. So,
ooh, that's a good one. I like that.
I like it. Well, the last thing we have, unless there are any other free agents that you guys wanted to talk about, I wanted to throw a bonus player in there. So that's somebody who's currently contracted with the team that we think will be on another roster. And we have 2 Jets players in this list. Coop, I wanted to throw to you first because Corey Davis is on my dynasty team that I just drafted, and I want to hear about how his value is about to go through the roof.
So I put Corey Davis here because I figured it would be unfair to pick DeAndre Hopkins, or else I would have cheated. Sure. I know he's like on the trade block, almost certainly going somewhere else. So I felt that was cheating. This one is getting kind of close though because Corey Davis. Not only did they just sign Alan Lazard, they have Alan Lazard now to play split end. They have Garrett Wilson, who's not going anywhere. Elijah Moore could be part of this Aaron Rodgers trade, but if not, he'd be in the slot. Corey Davis doesn't play the slot. He plays the same thing as Alan Lazard, and he can be cut for only $600,000 in dead cap and $10.5 million in savings. So right now he's sitting there looking like a free $10 million for this Jets team. So I could see him being cut, and he will get signed elsewhere because he is a split end that is routinely top 10 in the league in run blocking. And depending where that is, I mean, if it's somewhere like the Panthers, now he's the best wide receiver on the team. So there's a possibility he ends up somewhere else, and there's a possibility that it ends up pretty good. Like he could end up on the Lions as their split end. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities for this guy. I think he's a guy that I think is going to be playing football somewhere else after the Alan Lazard trade or signing as a free agent.
I like it. The other Jets player we had, I chose Zach Wilson. I don't think it's a secret that the Jets are pretty upset that they drafted him and he hasn't worked out. But I feel like there's teams out there that will be interested in what they saw from his college tape. And I know that the Jets can't get out of his contract, so we could see something where they give Zach Wilson and a 6th to get a 7th, trading down just so they can free up some money because – as we mentioned, they're bringing in Alan Lazard and they're bringing in Aaron Rodgers, and I think that defense has more holes than people realize. So they need to be bringing in more players to add to that team, and I think that getting rid of Zach Wilson would actually free up some money in a good way for them. But Josh, you have Brandon Cooks from the Texans.
So, kind of like what Coop was saying there, this one feels like a little bit of cheating, like D-Hop. However, not to the extreme that D-Hop is to me, because it's been rumored he's been wanting to get out of the Texans for what feels like a decade now. In reality, it's only been like 2 years, but I think this is this offseason where they finally do trade him away. Whatever that happens to be, I don't know. Personally, I would love him on the Chiefs. I don't remember what his contract is, so I'm not sure if we can afford it, but like if we don't get Laramie Tunsil, maybe get Brandon Cooks instead. But
I think if they trade him, I think they have to eat a bunch of that cap. In which case he'll cost a higher pick, but he would be affordable for the Chiefs. So because they eat a lot of it, you'd have to give up a good pick, but I think he is tradable in that sense. So it's not crazy to say he goes to the Chiefs, Josh.
And personally, I do like Brandon Cooks as a player, so I kind of hopes he goes to Chiefs. Again, that gives you more of a veteran presence as well, but I'll tell on that one.
He would be awesome with Mahomes. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that does it for this week's episode. Did you guys have anyone else you wanted to talk about, or any other NFL news or anything?
Hey, you did a good job with the list, man. Good job with the show too, dude. I really like coming on, boys. So you have to put me back in the rotation so we can chat again.
Absolutely. Coop, go ahead and tell the lovely people at home where they can find you.
Yeah, so all my written stuff right now is on fantasyalarm.com. You guys, Reddit guys, know that I post everything over there too. So you see me hanging out in those streets. And then for video, I do a morning show, audio and video on Better Sports, Bettor. It's a new network, kind of a competitor to SiriusXM. We have the show 7 to 10 a.m. If you're not awake for the live show, we put everything on YouTube. So if you search Front Yard Fantasy on YouTube, all the shows are up there. And we have, little shorts that are kind of funny to watch that we always clip stuff that we think is good. So you don't have to watch the whole 3 hours. Check out those shorts, see if you think it's funny or not, and then join us in the mornings for the shows. So that's where I'm at. Fantasy Alarm for the written stuff, Front Yard Fantasy on YouTube for the videos, and hanging out with you guys for the rest of the time.
All right. Well, check out the YouTube description to get links to the Fantasy Alarm and the YouTube page. But Josh, you have anything else before we close out?
That I can think of right now.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening. We will see you all next week so you can be ready before the ball is snapped. Thank you and goodbye.